In the first generations of the Wood Elves, sleep was considered harmless. They had no enemies. No predators hunted them through the woods, and the other tribes lived in peace. Medicine did not exist among them, for their tongue did not yet know the word illness. Their lives stretched across centuries, unmeasured and unfeared. They had paradise. They dreamed beneath open canopies, cradled by roots older than memory, believing dawn would burn away all shadows. Their magic was instinctive then, woven through breath and bone, spilling naturally into the world. When they slept, that magic did not cease. It drifted downward, sinking into the soil like rain. Such was the joy of the elves that danger held no meaning for them. But the forest listened. It learned. And though it held no malice, the moment an elf dreamed of unhappiness, it fed the darkness. So the darkness grew. And as it grew, fear began to stir within the elves. Slowly, unseen, gnawing at their souls while they remained none the wiser. With it faded their dreams of joy and contentment, thinning like mist at dawn. At first, the nightmares were small things. Flickers of fear, flickers of anger, flickers of hate, claws in the dark, the sensation of being watched when no one was present, of being followed when no one was there. The forest absorbed these impressions as it absorbed all things. Slowly, patiently, without judgment. But the forest was never gentle. Night after night, generation after generation, the same fears returned. Children dreamed of the same darkness between the trees. Parents dreamed of children vanishing into the forest, never to return. Elders woke with an unspoken dread, an unnameable certainty that a cataclysm was coming for all the tribes. And so the magic pooled in the roots, imperfectly filtered, thickening where fear repeated itself too often. Feeding, growing. The elves did not notice when the soil grew cold, when the light softened ever so slightly, when birds avoided certain groves, when deer fled instead of grazing, when moss refused to grow where it once thrived. The living trees there no longer reached as high as they once had. They called these places quiet clearings, in the tongue of the Carowin, the Renelwin, and instinctively learned to walk around them, their magic warning them where their minds could not. That was how the shadows gained sentience and learned patience. For centuries, the shadow creatures existed only as impressions, creases in the world where light bent wrongly, silhouettes flickering at the edge of sight. They were not alive, not yet. They were accumulations, fear without a body, memory without a name. But those who felt them knew their evil, and the evil grew. Each generation added weight. Each sleeper fed them shape. Limbs formed first, long, thin, unfinished. Then hunger. Then hatred. Then desire. And finally, understanding. They learned that the world above the soil was warmer, but not yet dark enough. Light hurt them. The first true manifestation came during the season of long dusk. Thurvale, an elven hunter, vanished along a familiar path, leaving behind only his shadow, etched into the bark of a tree, stretched and twisted as if it had tried to flee without him. When others came searching, they heard movement where nothing stood, breath without lungs, footsteps that did not press the leaves. At first light, the hunter's shadow vanished. Panic spread, and panic fed the roots. From that moment, the shadows grew bolder. No longer confined to dreaming soil, they rose during the thin hours before dawn, when magic was weakest and fear most fertile. They learned to borrow shape from the forest. Branches for spines, fog for skin, thorns for teeth. They learned to imitate a fox, a deer, a horse, and most terrifying of all, an elf. Sunlight tore them apart. Spoken words disrupted them. Fire made them recoil, but fear anchored them, fed them, made them solid. The more an elf believed they were hunted, the more real the creature became. Seeking balance, the forest began to dread its own children. Entire groves were abandoned, swiftly reclaimed. Pastures gave way to thorns sharp as daggers, poisoned with something the elves had no name for, only an understanding of how fatal it was. Names were erased from memory. Elders forbade the telling of certain stories, believing silence would starve the darkness. It did not. Silence only taught the shadows to listen, and so the elves forgot their customs, much of their speech, much of their magic, and finally, their near immortality, for they had learned something new, something worse even than the shadow creatures. Sickness. The shadows learned to move between nightmares, traveling from dreamer to dreamer on shared fear. Over generations, they grew strong enough to leave marks upon the waking world. Scratches in stone, color drained from leaves, frost in summer soil. They learned to influence dreams. That was when the elves discovered the song. Thurlethwyn. The realizing of held darkness. It did not come from spellcraft, but desperation. Nature fighting for balance through the elves' latent magic. A child, hiding beneath roots as something circled above, began to hum, not a tune taught by elders, but a trembling, instinctive melody. It resonated through soil and root, through buried magic itself. The shadow recoiled, unraveling like smoke in wind. Banished, but not destroyed. The song did not command. It reminded the forest of what it was before fear. It reminded magic of its intended shape. Where nightmares had layered corruption, the song wove harmony, threads entwined instead of piled. The forest listened, for it longed for balance. The elders listened too. They learned the song could not be forced. It required clarity of intent, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear repeat unchecked. Few could sing it. Sung softly, it thinned the shadows, blurring their edges, driving them back. Sung fully, by many voices woven as one, it could destroy younger shadows and banish the older ones for a time. But their hatred only deepened, and the song had a cost. Each singer bore the weight of generations, fears not their own, dreams never dreamed. Some lost their voices. Some vanished into the forest, leaving behind quiet ground where nothing would grow. With each year, fewer remained. The shadows noticed. They waited. Now the shadows are stronger, smarter, more devious. They hunt the song's echoes, linger near sleeping elves, waiting for a single unguarded nightmare. The forest watches. It always has. And beneath root and soil, the nightmares still dream, waiting to walk again. So it was for millennia. The elves are few now. They say the First Epoch has ended, and the second has begun. Life grows harder with each passing year as the song fades and the shadows grow bold. The elders whisper that the time of the elves is ending. Then, when all seemed lost, a child was found in a burned-out clearing, one that regrew overnight, not with watching blossoms, not with thorns, not with shadows, but with beauty. Trees taller than any living elf could recall, vines impossibly green, grass radiant with life. They named her Veloaneth, she who brings the first light. Among the people, she would be known as Lina, or simply Lina.